But yeah, this is what it looks like. I have it in Kindle form and in the book form. But for this series, I think I'm going to try to get the book form so you can see what it looks like. I rarely get the hardcover version, even though I know that those last longer, but these are more comfortable in my hand, paperback version. I only own a few books because Kindle is just so much cheaper, and I don't like to wait. That's the biggest thing. I don't like to wait for the book to be delivered to me. Like when I hear about a book, I get excited and I want to read it today. So that's really the biggest thing. But if I really like it and I like the message, I order the book and then I can read it whenever I want in my hand. The next book I will be ordering, if you're wondering, is The Four Agreements. I read the whole book. Really, really good. It's not as good as The Power of Now, but I will say that maybe another reread and it will be as beneficial. People really, really love that book, and I see why. I think I need to read it a few times to really get it. This book I read the first time and it really changed me. Like I feel like I connected with it. So the author is Eckhart Tolle. He has written many books, but this is definitely his most popular book he's ever written. It's he tours all over the country, and he is just I don't know, he has a YouTube channel. I've watched some of his YouTube videos. I don't know, some things I'm just like, okay. But this book, really recommend reading, especially if you suffer from anxiety. I think this book will help you a lot because it's basically CBT. Like it's a cognitive behavioral therapy. It's trying to change the way that you think about the reality that we're in. So he makes some good points. So I'm going to start with the beginning. So basically the intro talks a little bit about Eckhart Tolle, and he was going through a horrible depression. I think he was suicidal. And the way that he says this book came about was it just came to him in like a glimmer, or like some type of, I don't know, like a message from a higher power that made him write this book, and it changed his entire life. So that's kind of what he talks about in the first chapter. He was basically lowest of the low, no point in living, and he hit a low point, rock bottom, as they say. And that's when he got this message to write this book, and now he's like a multi-million-dollar author. So I don't know, seems like proof is in the pudding. But yeah, basically that's the whole first chapter. But the chapter after that talks about the mind, okay? So this chapter is very, very important, and I will tell you why. Because he kind of talks about the mind as a tool and how the mind needs to be used, and a lot of people let the mind use them. And I feel like if you suffer from anxiety, you definitely have racing thoughts. Your mind kind of rules you. You don't really have control over your mind. You'll just have like thought after thought after thought, usually negative, worry, a lot of worry, and it can kind of make you feel crazy because you kind of, like a lot of people, especially when they lay down to sleep and they close their eyes, it's like racing thoughts. That's anxiety. And worry is anxiety. It's basically thinking too much about the future and potential situations. That's pretty what anxiety is. And depression is thinking way too much about the past and comparing it to the present. So that's kind of the gist of depression and anxiety. But he talks about the mind as a tool, and the way that he talks about it kind of changed the way I think about my mind. So whenever I'm feeling anxious, I think like I am in control of my mind. My mind is not in control of me. So in the book he talks about that the only reason we should be using our thinking mind is to complete a task, okay, or to plan something. That's when we should be using our thinking mind. So let's say I need to put up a picture or something. That's when I would be like, okay, I need a hammer, I need nails. I start thinking and I start doing, okay? That's the only time we need to be using our mind. Also when we are, working and stuff like that. And like just basically like when we need doing tasks, okay, that's when we use our mind. But for love and relationships and friendships and all that, the mind actually gets in the way of love and relationships and like other things that really are out of our control. So if something's in our control, then yeah, we can use our mind. But like planning, like we're planning a vacation, but that's what I'm talking about. But people use their mind way too much. That's kind of what he talks about. He says that people use their mind, you know, for relationships. They're like, oh, what if he divorces me, or what if he cheats on me? You know, that's not really a productive thought. That's not going to actually bring you any type of, you know, it's not going to really move you anywhere. That's just worry. So, but I mean, if you see like a text from a girl, you know, or something like that, then you actually have productive like thoughts, you know what I'm saying? Because you have proof and you have like type of, he explains a lot better in the book, but basically the gist of it is that the mind is a tool and that you should be able to activate it and turn it off. That's a big thing. So I work actively to try to turn my mind off. I used to be a person that could never relax. My mind was always going, and even on vacation, I was like, I'm bored, and so I need to be productive, doing something. And humans are meant to rest, and if you're always using your mind, like, you're going to burn out. Even if you love what you're doing, you're probably going to burn out if you never rest. So he said you should be able to turn off your mind. So like, you can literally just, it's kind of like a practice, like you just turn it off. I mean, it kind of shocks me the way that he writes it, because I never really thought about it that way, that like we really have control over our mind. And that really, I guess that kind of helps with anxiety, because I think anxiety is feeling out of control, and it doesn't help if you feel out of control of the situation, plus you feel out of control of your own mind. That is going to cause severe anxiety and probably a disorder. So if you can just tone it back and only use your mind to do tasks, that's what it's meant to do. That's what he says, okay? So the second chapter talks about something called the pain body. And he said that the pain body can be activated with like negative experiences and stuff like that. To be honest, I don't really understand the pain body too much, so I'm not going to talk about that chapter. I need to reread it. But the next chapter is that he talks about how it takes time to be in the now. So the way he explains it is that we only have now. It's a very simple fact. I mean, it's a very simple thing that people really struggle to accept. Like, if you really think about it, the only moment we have is right now. The past does not exist anymore. The future hasn't happened yet. So we always live in the now. And so I've actually talked to one of my friends, and she had recently gotten a car accident, and she was afraid to drive. And I told her, like, are you in danger right now? Is everything okay right now? And she was having like anxiety attack. And she said, yeah, I'm fine right now. I'm talking to you. I feel fine. I'm like, well, there's no reason to have anxiety then, because you're fine. Everything's okay. And that calmed her down, because it's like, why is my body, well, anxiety is a body reaction. Your heart beats fast. I think your blood pressure goes up. I mean, your chest feels tight. It's very uncomfortable. So is my body acting like I am being like hit by a car when I'm literally sitting across from my friend talking to her? So it's just unnecessary. And another thing is he talks about is that when there is an emergency, your brain kind of turns off and you kind of just start acting. So with adrenaline. So there really is no point in worrying, because if there is any type of actual emergency, we are designed as humans to react to it in an appropriate way. I mean, have you heard of moms like lifting up cars to save their children? Like, it's like there's like miracles that occur. So basically, anxiety is a waste of energy and time. And I guess it activates the pain body, which is a term he uses, but yeah. And in the third chapter, he talks about how it takes time and practice. So I feel like, since I've read the book so many times and I think I really understand what he's saying, that I can kind of, when I feel anxious, turn it on. Like, I can turn, I just think like, okay, is anything wrong right now? Control your mind. What can I do to help the situation? And is everything, basically I'm just like over and over, is everything okay right now? Is everything okay right now? If the answer is yes, then worrying and having a panic attack is not going to solve any type of problem. So there's no reason for me to be having this anxiety. It's just a waste of energy. He said that it takes time. So at first it's going to be like a few minutes. and then you're going to do it, and you're going to stay in that trace for a few hours, a few months later. And then eventually, with practice, you're pretty much always going to live in the now, which essentially is the whole backstory of mindfulness. So this book helps with mindfulness, it helps with spirituality, and definitely helps with anxieties. I think this book has helped me more than some therapists have helped me. So yeah, I know for a fact that this book has helped me more than therapists have helped me. Yeah, like I think about this book more than I think about their advice. So yeah, that is what I love about this book. And I have a few quotes. He's also very stern in the book, which I find funny. Like he's like very, very he's very straight to the point. And the good thing about this book is that there is a part where he talks about, he actually like explains the power of now and everything in the mind. And then there is a back and forth with like someone who's like skeptical and doesn't understand. So it kind of gives you more information that like, if you don't understand, like he talks about the concept of time and how there really is no such thing as time. It's all like a construct, which that's kind of crazy, right? So yeah, in the book, there's people that are like, what do you mean there's no such thing as time? So like, so I shouldn't have to go to a meeting at a certain time? Like, and they kind of ask questions that probably like most people are going to have. Like, what do you mean there's no such thing as time? But if you really think about it, there really is no such thing as time. I mean, right now in England or Russia or Africa, it's all different times. So this whole time thing is kind of a human-made invention. So I had a really good quote, now I can't find it. It's just such a good book. Okay, so he goes, you haven't yet grasped the essence of what I am saying. He's so sassy. He goes, because you are trying to understand it mentally. Okay, so a lot of the book is very deep, and so people are like thinking really hard about it, and he kind of talks back to them about it. He said, the mind cannot understand this. Only you can. Please just listen. Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? Do you think you ever will? Is it possible for anything to happen or be outside the now? The answer is obvious, is it not? Nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now. So yeah, that quote pretty much summarizes the concept of the book. So if you have anxiety, I think this will help you a lot, because it kind of can be like, is anything wrong right now? We only have this very moment. When you're thinking about the future, when it comes, you're going to be in the now. So there's no point in worrying about potential situations, because if they do arise, you aren't capable of dealing with it. So back to this is what I'm saying. In life-threatening emergency situations, the shift in consciousness from time to presence sometimes happens naturally. The personality that has a past and future momentarily recedes and is replaced by an intense conscious presence, very still but very alert at the same time. Whatever response is needed then arises out of that state of consciousness. So yeah, that pretty much should calm a lot of people's nerves. I mean, I've been in a few car accidents, and I'm not really afraid of car accidents. A lot of people are. Like, a lot of people die. I think it's the leading cause of death for people under the age of 25 or something. But I will tell you that when I have been in car accidents where my car was completely totaled, when it happened, I did not think about anything. I was just like reacting. I had to think like, okay, I need to call the police. I need to do this. I was thinking, what action can I do next? I really wasn't in fear. Your body kind of goes into shock, and it kind of like deals with it. So yeah, I definitely wasn't having anxiety. I was just dealing with the situation. So yeah, I like the first part of the book. Then it goes into letting go of psychological time. Really good part. This is a good quote for people who are positive. This is negativity and suffering have their roots in time. So I'm a big believer that to cure a lot of problems or mental illness or just confusion in general, this is not from the book. This is my epiphany that I had today, actually. If you can understand on a logical level why something is happening, that pretty much cures you from having the anxiety about it, plus ruminating about it. What gets people stuck in rumination, which is when you like dwell and constantly think about things and pretty much have like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like you ruminate over being fired from a job or something, and so you perform badly and then you get fired from the next job. So that's kind of the self-fulfilling prophecy example. But what I'm trying to say is, if you can figure out, like, ask yourself why. Like, why is this a fear of mine? Like, I'm scared I'm going to lose my paycheck. Why is this a fear of yours? I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. Okay, so if you don't pay your bills, what's going to happen? What's the worst thing? It's going to just keep on going and get to the root fear, because there is a root fear. There's one fear that is causing all this, and the fear is loss of security and loss of control. That's most of the time. But the truth is that we really don't have much control. We only have control over ourselves. So if you have this horrible mentality, negative mentality, you're going into a situation with really bad attitude. You're going with a really negative attitude. So you're probably going to cause the situation to be negative. You're not going to go into it with a good attitude, okay? So the only thing we can control is ourselves. And if you can't get to the root of why something is causing intense fear in you, that's a problem. And I think that will help if you're just like, accept that we don't have much control over situations. So that's just a little side note. But yeah, he said, but the belief that the future will be better than the present is not always an illusion. The present can be dreadful and things can get better in the future, and often they do. My lash is coming up. Talk about one more part and then I'm going to wrap this up. There's a lot of good things in this book. He talks about like feeling your body. I do that a lot. Like just like whenever you're feeling stressed, just like feel your body. Just go into it. Feel like what's going on with my body right now, and just like what sensations am I feeling. And a big part of this is actually about relationships and how people use relationships kind of like an addiction, and also how people use relationships as an ego boost. They use people like, oh, this person loves me, so it boosts my ego. And that is very short-lived. That's not real love. And I think that's why a lot of marriages are unhappy, because that's not what love is about. Love is selfless. Love is not, oh, this person is an ego boost for me. So he kind of goes into that in a spiritual level. He said, so whenever your relationship is not working, whenever it brings out the madness in you and in your partner, be glad. What was unconscious is being brought up to the light. It is an opportunity for salvation. For every moment, hold the knowing of that moment, particularly of your inner state. If there is anger, know that there is anger. This is a big thing I have been trying to do, is actually name the emotion I am feeling and not judge myself for feeling it, because as humans, we are able to feel a whole range of emotions. Our culture, for some reason, says that we should always be happy, which is not realistic at all. So if I try to let myself feel all the emotions that we have as humans. We have a whole range of emotions besides happy. So anger, sadness, grief. So just let yourself feel it. If you don't let yourself feel it, it's gonna get worse. So yeah, so here he says, if there is anger, know that there is anger. If there is jealousy, defensiveness, the urge to argue, the need to be right, an inner child demanding love and attention, or emotional pain of any kind, whatever it is, know the reality of that moment and hold the knowing. The relationship then becomes your sadhana, your spiritual practice. If you observe unconscious behavior in your partner, hold it in the loving embrace of your knowing so that you won't react. This is easier said than done. Unconsciousness and knowing cannot coexist for long, even if the knowing is only in the other person and not in the one who is acting out the unconsciousness. If you react to your partner's unconsciousness, you become unconscious yourself. But if you then remember to know your reaction, nothing is lost. Humanity is under great pressure to evolve because it is our only chance of survival as a race. This will affect every aspect of your life and close relationships in particular. Never before have relationships been as problematic and conflict-ridden as they are now. True. As you may have noticed, they are not here to make you happy or fulfilled. If you continue to pursue the goal of salvation through relationship, you will be disillusioned again and again. But if you accept that the relationship is here to make you conscious instead of happy, then the relationship will offer you salvation, and you will be aligning yourself with the higher consciousness that wants to be born into this world. For those who hold on to the old patterns, there will be increasing pain, violence, confusion, and madness. Yep, so that's pretty deep, but it makes a good point. People rely on their relationships to make them happy, and that in itself is just not based in reality. Where relationships are actually supposed to make us grow. They challenge you. So I hope that was kind of a good summary. This is my first time doing this, and I'm going to try to do this every week, but I want to start with my favorite book. Next week, I'm going to do the 4 agreements, I believe. And yeah, so if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. And thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a good day or night, or I guess there's no concepts of time. So I guess you have a good consciousness. Bye, guys.